So Vince, digging in here to the world of sports retailing, we're touching on a subject that I kind of noticed just observing the retail world in the last 10 years. But sports retailers are not doing so hot.
All right, so obviously this is one niche of the
Right.
broader retail space, especially if you're thinking like retail and athleisure wear, which is a big part of these businesses. But I just thought it was interesting because it kind of reflects a lot of the challenges that a lot of retailers are having now. And so, we've heard a little bit about these struggling brands, and probably a lot of us are familiar with them. So think for a second about Sports Authority, right? So huge chain. What it was previously the largest sports equipment chain, you'd call it. And, the product of many, many acquisitions, it was taken private in a leveraged buyout deal. But they filed for bankruptcy protection in March. They're closing about 140 of their 460 locations. And their current owner is private equity firm. It's Leonard Green and Partners. So they bought...
In bankruptcy, bought the thing.
Oh, no. Currently
Okay,
it's
got
owned. They purchased Sports Authority for about $1.3 billion. I think it was about 10 years ago, in 2006. And, over time, they've accumulated about $1.1 billion of debt, usually a pretty common characteristic of these LBOs, and the company has just struggled to operate under that kind of debt pressure.
Right.
So in January, they missed an interest payment, and then since then, they've been pretty actively looking for essentially a white knight buyer to come in and save the company. And though management mentioned that they received a lot of high interest from buyers, nothing really obviously came together. So they're in bankruptcy protection now. So interestingly, for fiscal 2015 that ended January 30th, 2016, the company had revenue of about $2.6 billion. So still, pretty big business. Like I said, 460 locations, but it had before tax losses of $156 million, according to the Wall Street Journal. And there's going to be a two-part auction. So on May 4th, they have leases for over 100 of their closing stores going up for sale, and then the remainder of the assets, so pretty much everything, potentially go up for bidding about 2 weeks later on May 16th. There's been interest, obviously, from other competitors who are still going. So think privately held Academy Sports and Outdoors, Dick's Sporting Goods, Modell's, which is family-owned, have all kind of talked about the bidding process, getting involved. And so on the one hand, you have competitors who might purchase assets and keep stores open as a going concern. But on the other hand, you have like liquidation firms that might outbid them and just buy it out and liquidate all the assets. So it'll be interesting to see what's left of Sports Authority. It's still a big brand. I'd be surprised to see every single store close.
Yeah, no, that's wild. What's the deal with City Sports?
So City Sports is a smaller example. That actually happened about last October. So they're based out of Boston. Again, just another example, smaller chain, filed for bankruptcy last year. They closed 8 of their 26 locations, and investors ended up buying out some of their intellectual property. So they're hoping to revive that chain. But in very recent news, and this just happened yesterday, we have Vestas Retail Group. So again, yet another example of like the dominoes falling at this point for this industry. So they operate a lot of big chains that I think people are familiar with: Eastern Mountain Sports, Bob Stores, Sports Chalet, which is out on the West Coast. They are run by Versa Capital Management. So this is a private equity firm. They acquired each of these chains separately and essentially put them under a single umbrella. So they specialize in turning around some of these distressed businesses. So Vestas was formed in 2012 after buying out Eastern Mountain Sports and Bob's, and they added Sports Chalet in 2014. But the thing is, Sports Chalet was already struggling significantly. They had been in business for over half a century at this point, but they've been scarred by a lot of losses, declining results in the last 12 months. So, they were public, and in their last 12 months as a public company, they reported $343 million in revenue, bottom line loss of $9 million or 64 cents per share. And another big thing you'll notice is their gross margins, for example, declined from about 38.5% in fiscal 2010 and 2011 to 26.7% by the time the company was
And that,
acquired.
of course, implies they're just having to cut prices in order to move products, which is never good.
So, obviously they're struggling with their operations. So, Sports Chalet's done, and then they're versus hoping to actually maintain Bob Stores and Eastern Mountain Sports. But Vestas CEO Mark Walsh, and I wanted to mention this specifically, he cited online competition and warm winter weather as some of the drivers for the tough times that the different.
I
store
don't buy
brands
that
have
winter weather
experienced.
thing, but
That's more of a one-time thing. So, going bigger picture, those are just some of the examples of the brands or the chains that have fallen victim to this very competitive environment.